Conversations with Elders, hosted by yours truly, Louis-Virie Blanche, welcoming you to Glastonbury Radio 432, where we will be TED Talking in tongues with the elders of all ages, all generations, all races, cultures, and creeds. All gender, religious, or political preferences will be honored and encouraged on Glastonbury Radio 432, Conversations with Elders, where it is our treasured pleasure to roll out the red carpet of golden liquid love light to you in honor of the Queendom Come, soul dancing free to life's heartbeat drum, in honor of mother, daughter, sister, lover, priestess, goddess, friend, sharing the blessings of love's perfect stranger, Deja Vu, welcoming you to Glastonbury Radio 432.
It's too cosmic, much too cosmic for me. Much too cosmic.
Aloha, hola, aho, hello, hi fi.
Hi, bye.
Dr. Mosen is with us again.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. And I want to say we are going to roll out the red carpet of golden liquid love light in honor of mother, daughter, sister, lover, warrior, priestess, goddess, and friend.
Yes.
And one of the things I think is very important about what you've been sharing is that to remember how important it is to surrender in submission to serving Creator and all creation in peace and joy.
Yeah.
And if that's in the guiding light of our consciousness, we were talking about how do we maintain alignment to our true north.
Yeah. See, if you look at, for example, is some kind of analogous to a magnetic needle. Magnetic needle is very true to north, unless it's obstructed. So that magnetic, that true longing for magnetic needle to point toward north is very similar to or analogous to our conscious. Our conscious is always pointed toward the Creator, unless it's obstructed by my intention, by my desires or whatever inclination or selflessness.
Perhaps the ego could do it, media, society.
Any kind of cultivation, it can be that cultivation from outside force, outside the consciousness, is what we refer to as subconscious. So subconscious can obstruct conscious or obstruct. It's an obstruction for the magnetic needle to point toward the north. So I'm going to be pointing out to something else, pointing toward my own ego, because, right?
Yes.
For somebody else, I'm following somebody who cultivated me. I follow him. So then I cannot be pointing directly to north. So that field, which magnetic field, when it's free and it's liberated, it can be pointing toward north. So that liberty and freedom to allow a magnetic needle toward north is very liberation and freedom for our consciousness to be gravitated to Creator of the field of magnetism.
But in our lives, we kind of have lots of possibilities of being distracted. And if our daily intake and our mind, body, and spirit isn't in harmony with the field and flow, because everything, as you say, has magnetic function.
Yes.
And our bodies, the daily intake, we've been talking about the intake, the emotional intake.
Yes.
The intake of light.
All has to be assimilative, not accumulative. Right. Like, for example, if I be jealous of you, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you may be very forgiving and forgive me for, even if you find out that I'm jealous of you, you may be very forgiving and forgive me. So it doesn't affect you when you forgive me, but I am the source of it. So it's damaging me. And if it accumulated by you and this and that, and all of a sudden I have a lot of accumulation of non-assimilative feeling, which is obstruction to that magnetic needle to point toward the north.
Emotionally, you could be carrying a lot of extra baggage.
Yeah. Well,
And your body could be carrying lots of extra toxins.
Yeah. Because you have the option of forgiving me, but I am source of it. I'm not forgiving myself because I intended it.
And the natural system, no, humans create systems, and that nature utilizes function.
Yes, that's what anything it stems from my mind or my theoretical views or whatever. It's system. System is governed by input and output. And the ratio between that output and input is called efficiency, which is always way less than 1. Now, field and flow, like, when the seed divides itself, and multiplies, all of a sudden becomes sufficiency because I put 1 and I all of a sudden got 170 or 700. So therefore that induces a field which is sufficiency. The ratio between field and flow is sufficiency. That's way above 1. That's why the seed divides itself to multiply. A father gives a sperm to the mother. Mother divides all of its organs to that baby. All of a sudden, that baby has all those organs. Right?
Yes.
That mother is dividing itself, but that division that the mother does, it becomes joy of motherhood or fatherhood.
And Mother Earth does the same thing for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's just very simple, it doesn't take science, or college course or anything like that. All we have to do is just observe it, what's going on. It's very simple.
So when we get out of alignment with our alignment to divinity or consciousness, we can utilize color to assist us in getting back in alignment.
Yes. Now, if you look at a color, if you look at it, is associated with magnetism. The sun has a spectrum of magnetism, magnetic exchange with Earth and all its planets, and with its own sun. It goes on and on, fractilates all the way. So if we look at this, what comes from the sun to Earth is not just light. Light is just one segment of the whole spectrum of magnetism, magnetic behavior between sun and Earth. That's why this magnetic force, that's why you notice in the morning, twilight of dawn is very strong. It's compressive. It's called magnetic peristalsis. Like, when you breathe, all of a sudden, you expand.
Yes.
See, when you go to a peristalsis, Earth does the same thing. All of a sudden, at the pressure, contraction in the morning is very much that pushes all the water down, tides. Yeah. And in the afternoon, sunset, twilight of sunset, all of a sudden that magnetism is so expansive that relaxes and pulls everything up. So you see, in this magnetic exchange between Earth and sun, we have a peristalsis, just like our breathing. So everything which is function of magnetism has a peristalsis.
So how does that first light in the dawn and twilight in the evening affect certain chemicals that cause us to feel like it's time to sleep, it's time to wake up?
Well, one very direct effect is on the pituitary gland. So it can change from producing serotonin to melatonin or melatonin to serotonin. Like in the morning, if our functions are regulatory and we are not affected by downer drugs or upper drugs in the afternoon, which people think, it's a good thing, to all of a sudden in the afternoon go to a downer, or in the morning go to an upper.
Stimulate up, stimulate down.
So if we are on course of regulatory function, then this light through the iris of our eye to the pituitary gland, it changes that autonomic nervous system from really systemic to sympathetic to parasympathetic. It slows down, and sympathetic to sympathetic to speed up. And the entire body, if you notice, the energy management of the body is based on autonomic nervous system. Just slow this part and the speed up the other side. A siesta after lunch.
Yes. I
not
feel like
rush.
siesta time.
Not rush on the track and try to run 100-meter dash.
It's much different if you have a nice, slow, relaxed lunch and you know you're going to take a siesta
Yeah.
instead of driving through the fast food, getting that meal and eating in 5 or 10 minutes and getting back to work.
And then drive, get in your car, get in the highway and pass the speed limit. Go fast as you can.
Well, I was, there's a book that I've been listening to, an audio book with my beloved Deborah, and it speaks of the nature of, how do I put this? Soft colors actually, this wasn't in the Mary Magdalene book. It was in a book about like productivity. If you're an employer and you want more productivity out of your employees, if you keep them on deadlines with very structure and pressure,
Yeah.
it doesn't allow creativity to flow.
Yes.
So if you have a more relaxed atmosphere and soft colors of nature, and people are allowed to maybe daydream a little bit or to think and let their minds wander, the wandering mind has more creative flow to it.
Because it has a peripheral vision, not just a focused vision. But we are cultivated to be focused. We are cultivated to be objective. We are cultivated to be specialized instead of self-sufficient. The peripheral vision, subjective, not objective. No, but everything is opposite.
Now, when it comes to the cones and the rods of the eyes, are the rods more peripheral?
Well, rods basically they are sensitive to light, and cones are sensitive to colors. So the rods see the whole spectrum of light, but the cones, they see each one of those colors. So that's why when we do color therapy, it affects different parts of the body differently, because that's why if you get into the charts and all that, you notice for some of those, they say systemic to put it on the whole body, and some of them, they designate a location to put that light.
A very specific location.
Yeah.
Now, do you have some visuals to share with that?
Well, it's on your the PowerPoint that you have. Can you bring that up, or should I get it and bring it up?
It's probably best for you to bring it up. Mine is in my iMovie file.
Okay, let me see. Let me see, where do I have this? Let me. Okay, let me make this, and then I have to say share a screen, correct?
Yes.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let me change that. Does that change the setting for you?
Okay, let me see if it works now. Okay, this is the screen.
Yes, I think it's
You see
working
this?
now.
Do you see this chart here?
Yes.
Okay, if you look at this, you know, there are certain areas divided, the whole body is divided into different zones. This is the front areas and the back areas.
Yes.
You see that?
Yes.
So therefore, you know, but some of when we get into really choosing colors and lights, these are actually has to be full spectrum lights. It can be LED or fluorescent. It has to be incandescent, which is closest to the sunlight, and full spectrum incandescent lights. So some of those, you know, in designation of different illnesses or symptoms, it says systemic. That means the whole body. You have to shine it on the whole body. And some of them, as you see, there are different areas. These are the zones of the body that designates in this light therapy. Is that visible for you?
Yes. It could be larger, but I can see it.
Okay, let me see if I can make it. Hold on, just 1 second. Is that better?
That's better, yes.
Okay. Now, so you see that, for example, it's number 1 is space, number 2 is, I can't even read it myself. It's, I need my glasses.
Number 2 is neck.
No, is it? Yeah, okay, you can read better than me. You have good eyes. And then, you know, thyroid, you see that, that's why, you know, there are different zones of the body for light therapy. Those are all the zones that you see charted here.
Left
And
heart, right heart, spleen. It goes to liver, stomach, abdomen, pelvis, genitals, thighs, legs, arms, and feet.
yeah, so those are basically zones that they have divided 22 different zones. Now, the next slide, if you look here, you know, these are the 9 and possibly 2, maybe 2 extra in terms of colors that we can use, spectrochrome colors. You notice there is red, orange, yellow, lemon, green, turquoise, blue, indigo, violet, purple, magenta, and scarlet. Now, these charts, which they are made in the next slide, these charts that they are the one that I buy, you know, and put together for people, they are made in Germany. It's called Ektachrome Company. You notice they are designated by numbers. You see on the left-hand side a spectrochrome color, and
Yes.
designated numbers is on the other side.
Now, are those nanowebers, nanometers?
No, those are just this number. It's just a reference number.
Reference number, okay.
Yeah. So when they talk about red, for example, we have to use the gels 818 and 828 because those are the numbers for designated by gels. It's just a designation, you know.
Okay.
And then for orange, we have to use, for example, filter 809, 828. For yellow, 809. For lemon, you know, so that's why, you know, for each one of these reds, the colors that you see here, we have to use different gels for different filters to combine to get, let's say, for example, orange, to get lemon. So, so these numbers are designation for those filters. Now, if we go here, let me go to the next one. And there is also combination of colors. Now, if we look at, for example, a given symptom, let's say chronic sore throat, which which is regular condition, common name, and then we have medical name, color, schedule, number. So for chronic sore throat, we need to use designation 39. And when we go to 39, let me see if I have it here. I don't think I have it here, but basically when we go to item number 39, then under, I thought I put it here. Let me just check one more time. It could be way up there. I know it's here. I just have to find it. Let me just check one more place. Just sorry about that. I just looked at it before we got on. Sorry about the delay. Let me see if I can.
No problem. We can edit.
Okay, if you let's just use the one that I have here. If you look at, for example, chronic sore throat, you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, chronic sore throat, the filter for that is lemon. On the previous chart we said what lemon was, and
Yes.
lemon 22 systemic front. So that means the lemon, and then blue, which is number 39, on areas of 1 and 2. So these are the gels for color therapy for chronic sore throat. We can use lemon 22 on systemic front, that means the entire front. And then blue on, which is number 39, and then on number 1 and 2, the body, the area of 1 and 2.
Right. And these are on the front.
Yeah.
So what we're basically getting at here is that people that find this interesting and want to go further and get deeper into it, we had talked about, you do what, a weekend workshops?
Yeah, and then we can go in more detail and go symptom by symptom. If somebody wants a given symptom, we can make it focus on that. But our time is very limited. This is a 2-day thing, to get into all the details of it. So at the end of the 2 days, people can see how to compose and put the colors together for different symptoms.
So in that 2-day time, they'll learn a lot about what to do for various illnesses.
Yeah, they learn a little bit about the whole nature of colors and magnetism, and what are the real colors like a rainbow, and virtual colors like we have created today, which is all LEDs. So therefore, they learn how to use natural lights. And there's a lot of references. If they want to read more, I can give you a lot of references. People can buy books or read a little bit more about it.
So the full spectrum lighter, you have how many 9 gels that you use?
We use 9 gels. And then, there is like a television studio projector. You've seen those, right?
Mm-hmm.
These gels, they have a little slide in the front. We put it in the front.
Right.
If you want, I can go get it again. And then this full spectrum light, about 100 watts, or maybe 75 watts, it kind of shines on their body. Now, there are better lights which you can also, it has a lens, you can focus it. So those focusing projectors, are a little bit better because if I have to put it in a small area, then it can focus it in there.
It works like a lens.
Yes.
Well, these colors would enable people to strengthen their immune system by utilizing color and light.
Yes, yes. Because what happens, it creates a cognitive perception of certain magnetic portion of the magnetic field. Because color is actually a magnetic transformation. It's not a mechanical oscillation. Especially if you can do this, I have put gels on people's window. Let's say the place they eat breakfast. So the sunlight, instead of 100 watts incandescent light, sunlight hits it. All of a sudden, the room they are sitting is for that given, let's say it's a cancer patient. The room that they are sitting, sunlight comes through that window and the gel is placed there and it shines on them.
Is that something that one would place in permanently in that room?
Well, for the time, that they are trying to get that treatment.
For the time of the treatment?
Yeah.
Now, was there a time when the windows of the churches, mosques, and temples had a certain type of glass that was colored?
Yeah. I mean, that was probably, it was bringing some kind of cognitive perception and notion in people, because those colors, have effects on our psyche.
The sunlight in reacting with the glass and the color.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that that's still being done today? Those people that understand this, apply that to temples, and churches, and mosques?
Well, in the old days, they used to do, but today, whatever building we are doing is really inflected by indoor air quality, because good portion of all the material we use in building today, which is high performance material. This high performance material is intense amount of chemical in those materials. So we have an issue of off-gassing and indoor air quality because we are using very toxic chemicals in building. For example, formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is very carcinogenic. And when we have to do a press board or let's say plywood or all of that, they have to use a lot of that, compress it together to hold it together. It's not a natural wood. That's why sometimes you enter some of these old homes, and if they get a little hot or cold or something, change of temperature, sometimes in summer, you go in those and you can sense and smell.
A certain smell.
Yeah. Because what they used in the boards and plywood, especially wafer board or the particle boards and all that stuff, is high consumption of formaldehyde, which is the glue to compress it together.
And your solar architecture designs, you've always spoken about not utilizing any metal in the structure.
Yeah.
And
because,
using passive solar principles.
Yeah. What the metal is, it acts like a Faraday cage. So it really intercepts the magnetism from coming into that house. So all of a sudden we have no natural magnetic field inside the house because there's so much metal, it intercepts it. It's called Faraday cage. So we are in a cage of non-magnetic cage.
Blocking out the beauty of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Yeah. So that's why that's why you notice sometimes when, let's say you go to Mexico, they have these thick adobe walls or really natural earth materials.
Mm-hmm.
You notice you go inside of it and you feel very comfortable and you don't know why. And that happened to Johnny Carson, way back, when he goes to this really old-fashioned adobe house in Mexico, and all of a sudden he feels a lot better than this high fancy house that they had built for him with all kinds of metals and all that in it.
It was very noticeable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially if people, if they're sensitive, they sense it.
And the Glober salt you were speaking of.
Yeah, Glover salt has been used all along the history because there is a magnetic nature of the Glover salts that it's called phase change. That means at certain temperature it liquefies, at certain temperature it solidifies. It is called phase change. When material they go through phase change, they either give or absorbs a lot of energy. For example, the experience that we have is our refrigerator. You notice you have freon gas. In the backside of it, you heat it up. It becomes vapor. This vapor goes inside the refrigerator and absorbs a lot of heat and becomes liquefied. And then it comes back again and then you circulate. So that's the function of the refrigerator. Now, if you visualize the same principle as Glover salt, if it's treated and it's formulated correctly, it can liquefies at about 80 degrees. When it liquefies, it all of a sudden absorbs a lot of heat, like a refrigerator. When it becomes solidified at 65, it gives a lot of heat. So that's why it has been used all along the history in historical building, all over Middle East, and native in America. You know, they used it very much, you know, in terms of maintaining kind of non-fluctuating temperature in their food storages and so on and so forth. You know, so Glover salt in modern application, and the road maintenance crew, they usually mix that with sand and put it on roads because it prevents icing.
So Glober salt is readily available to be used for building today.
It's very cheap. It's very inexpensive. So
it is inexpensive.
Yes, very inexpensive. That's why they put it on the road. They mix it with sand and they dump.
Yes.
That's why those places, you know, that they do that. You notice the bottom of all those cars are rusted, like Milwaukee, Utah, or Wisconsin.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Now, what happened is the Glover salt, I have used it in walls, you know, in, let's say in San Antonio, Texas. And it maintains a very constant temperature all year round, between 65 and 80. And so I think I have sent you some pictures of it. But it was put in the container. Instead of insulation, we put these container of Glover salt inside the wall. So there's one drawback.
What is that?
And that you don't take a long nail and nail it into the wall. Because all of a sudden it puts a hole in that container and salt water squirts out.
So you can't nail it to the wall.
Yeah. If you want to hang it in painting or something, you have to use different mechanism, you know, not with a nail in the wall.
So when you're speaking of these solids become liquids, liquids become gas, gas becomes plasma.
It's called phase change materials. These are certain things in the nature, like for example, freon. That's what they use it for, refrigerator gases. For building, all along the history, they have used Glover salt. Except probably we have nicer, better techniques, you know, to put it container and then make a few additive to it, so the temperature, we can change the temperature.
Now, can it be mixed with mud or adobe with earth?
Oh yeah, because adobe is a very responsive. It's a thermal responsive material. That is, it stores the heat and releases it after a time lag. And that time lag can be calculated by heat transfer equations. And how long do you want for this heat to be delivered to inside?
Is that calculated by the thickness of the wall itself?
Yes, thickness. See what there is something in that material. Every material, I have a small field test laboratory that you can test soil, for example. I mean, the soil maybe in your area is different than the soil in New Mexico because it has a better adobe there in Mexico. So this test, it determines conductivity and thermal properties of that dirt or soil. So then diffusivity, that is how heat diffuses in a material and how it transfers and how it stores and how it releases. So all of those all those parameters can be determined. So when we design that wall is for very specific soil and a specific environmental temperature and climatic conditions.
In countries like Mexico and outside the United States, there's oftentimes you notice the different colors used in housing.
Yeah.
Do you think that's from tradition in the culture or an understanding of the principles of color?
Well, it was a culture, that was very understanding that these things to natural responses. Here, you notice today, you drive around the neighborhood, you see how much gray they have used, how much brown, the purity. As we talked the last time, a color can be determined by three principles. One of them is hue. What part of the spectrum is that color?
The
Two,
hue.
yeah, two is the hue is humanity.
Humanity, yes.
Humanitarian. It means you're a full spectrum person. You're not a partial spectrum. You're not fragmented. If you're partial spectrum, you're fragmented. Okay. So now the next thing is purity of the color. The purity of or light. The second is light. How much light is in a color? So let's say you take a red and a little yellow, and you add more light, you get pastel color. We call it what? Pastel colors has a little bit more light. Now,
does more light soften the color?
Yes, that's why more light. All of a sudden, you have, let's say, a red. You add more light into it, right? Then it becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. Now, what happens? So the light is the second principle of color. First is hue, then it's light. Then the third one, which is very important, is purity of that color. That means, the purity of the color is measured by how much gray it has in it. That's why in textile industry or car industry, the more they extract the gray out of a color, the more expensive that color becomes. All of a sudden, you see a cheap textile which is red and a very expensive textile which they have taken that out. It's the same hue, but all of a sudden one of them really absorbs you and the other one repels you.
Well, there's some of those places they have a $200 or $300 paint job.
Yeah. That's why what is it called? They call it the fire engine red, and Porsche is very expensive.
Yes.
Because it's very pure red.
Now, what the magenta and seafoam green?
Yeah, those are according to Densha, he defined them, or he coined them as equilibrated colors or equilibrium colors. So everything else is between those. Now we have a chart here. Maybe that kind of clarifies that. Let me see if I can get it. I think we looked at it one time. Let me just see if I can bring it out. Oh, here. You see what happens, you see this seafoam green is a twilight. It's very powerful. It's the twilight between blue and green. You see that right here?
Mm-hmm.
And then, we have the yellow, which is the primary color. And then here's a magenta. It's another twilight color. So in the past we had red, yellow, and blue. But now you notice, on the television or your screen or let's say your monitor, they go with magenta, seafoam green, and yellow, because those are more powerful saturated colors because it's the phase change. Anything that goes through a phase change, like magnetic field of the Earth and Sun, at dawn, it goes through a phase change. It goes from night to day. It's like that phase change is very powerful. That's why it has so much, it causes tide. Same thing with color. At sunset, all of a sudden we are at twilight, the light is going to dark. So there is very powerful twilight at sunset. So that's why it pulls everything up. So those are also in holistic quantum is associated with the color. So twilight colors are much more powerful. So that's why he picked up magenta and seafoam green as the two equilibrium colors. And then yellow is common to all things.
So the standard used to be red, blue, and green.
Yes. That's why you notice, I forgot what year it was, monitor or television, or I think it was Sony first. All of a sudden they started using twilight colors.
And people notice how the picture would look so much better.
Yeah. So you notice this chart that you see here, this was 1931. This was discovered 1931. I wrote it down here.
Mm-hmm.
And you see between blue and green, there is a twilight zone here. Twilight zone between red and green is yellow. And twilight zone between red and blue is this magenta.
Now, is this the gentleman who was responsible for this understanding?
This one here, I forgot this in 1931, but the one who actually applied it into health application was Dinshaw.
Ginshaw.
Yeah.
And then John Ott was more involved with what aspect of color?
Yeah. This is called chromatosity, which is another way describing phase change. Chromatosity was discovered in 1931.
Chromatosity.
Yeah.
Now, for instance, we talked about sunglasses and lenses over the eyes.
Yeah.
Would these colors also have a different effect than, say, a blue sunglasses, more having more seafoam green color, and glasses having more a magenta colored lens or a yellow lens?
Well, if you have a yellow or seafoam green or magenta, you'll have the effect of those colors on your cones. So that's why John Ott and many others, they have recommended full spectrum light.
Full spectrum light.
Yeah. It's like, for example, I'm eating and all of a sudden I eat certain food and disregard the other part of the food.
And why would you disregard certain parts?
But because what happens, if you're passing only yellow in there, some of the cones which is sensitive toward other colors are being starved.
They're not getting fulfilled.
Yeah, because that's why, they say full spectrum. So there are sunglasses, which kind of takes excessive light away. But the sunglasses that John Ott was recommending was allowing full spectrum, not ultraviolet and this and that. You see a lot of sunglasses, they're very expensive one. They block ultraviolet, for example. But we want full spectrum. Now, if you want to dim it, decrease the light so it doesn't bother your eyes, that's a different issue, but you want full spectrum. See, the eyes were created to function because the science of iridology says every cell in your body has a nerve ending in the iris. So if you look at one of those irises, that's a whole another 2-day workshop or maybe a week, how to study the eye. Now, if I have a bad kidney, immediately in that sector, that's portion which is associated to the kidney, it shows certain spots, and you can detect something before it becomes chronic or acute. The person in early 40, 50, and 60, they really captured this. His name was Dr. Jensen, iridology. And so he created the camera. I have all his cameras and all that. So you can take a picture of the iris and look and see. There is no diagnostic better than that and the tip of the fingers.
The tips of the fingers.
Yeah, which is called GDV. So by taking a picture of the iris, you can see which segment. Let's say if my kidney is about to be ill or have a pandemic or something, it shows in the area which is associated to the kidney. So what have same thing with the reflexology, but in eyes, you can see and diagnose it. In GDV, you can see and diagnose it. I mean, it's not me deciding something, because if I try to decide something, I may make a mistake, or I may not see exactly what it's there. I may make a mistake in my diagnosis, but this, it's not me or you. You see the picture in the eye, you see the picture in the fingertip. So there is no guesstimation, or everything is actually what it is.
Are you familiar with the Tibetan eye chart, the exercises for the eye?
Yeah, I mean, there is charts, that you have to exercise to get the muscles around the eye strong. Otherwise, you have, there's up, down, left, right. I have all those charts.
So when the eye gets weak, we stimulate it by putting lenses there.
Yeah. It's possible if you do those exercises, I have all those exercises, that you recover your vision. And many people have done it.
Yes, I've known people that have done that.
Yeah. So what happens here, we need full spectrum to go in here, through the eye, in order to be helpful. John Ott is the main person who advocated that.
And in the list of dignitaries, or you might say very people that had very important contributions to our understanding of light and color, there was one woman.
Her name was Kate Baldwin. Kate Baldwin was, I think, one of the first, or maybe the first person who fought her way into medical school. Because medical school, just like architecture, was only for men. Same thing with architecture, it was kind of exclusive. The person who designed Hearst Castle, I forgot her name. Anyway, she fought her way also to a school of architecture. And then Randall Hearst, hired her to do Hearst Castle.
So
Yeah.
Kate Baldwin, what did she contribute to our understanding of light?
Kate Baldwin became a medical doctor, but she was also apprentice to Dinshaw. So he practiced Dinshaw. He was assistant and apprentice to Dinshaw. So he really took Dinshaw's stuff, and really, since Dinshaw was not a medical doctor, he was a scientist. So as a medical doctor, he applied that, and he had very great results. And then that's why many times back and forth, the medical establishment took him to court and all that stuff. but he won all the cases. So he's very one of the um champion of light therapy. She is one of the champion of light therapy.
Kate Baldwin.
Yeah.
And
But
Let There Be Light was that by Genshaw?
by Dinshaw, yes.
Genshaw.
Yeah, Kate Baldwin, Dr. Kate Baldwin was the apprentice to Dinshaw. And he became one of his followers. And she actually became one of his followers. And then he really brought this whole light therapy into the attention of a lot of the medical people.
So were they involved in, like, when babies were born jaundice and the lights they use in hospitals? I think they use blue lights.
Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, there was many cases that they were recommending surgery, and she was able to use lights and prevent that surgery and recovery, especially like abdominal, stomach pains and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So in this process, we have been going through understanding the alkalinity and acidity of substances,
Yes.
the things we intake, whether it's color, food, sound,
If
light.
you want to associate to the color, a color has gray is an acidic color. A color which is more purified from gray is an alkaline color.
So less gray gives you more alkalinity.
Yeah. Color
More
can
gray
color.
gives you more acidity.
Yes.
And when you take the gray out of the color, it actually gives it a deeper hue, a brighter light, a brighter essence.
It gives you a purity. The issue of light, it could be a very dark color, but it's still very magnetic. And if you add light to it, then it becomes more pastel.
Becomes more pastel. Well, in terms of what we were saying earlier, the creativity of, say, people working those soft colors and the ability to allow the mind to be expansive and to wander.
Yeah.
They say a lot of people get ideas in the shower.
Yeah.
And they were saying, well, if you were an employer, how would you get the most productivity and the most creativity out of your employees? And
I haven't worked in the. Oh, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't worked in the shower. An early morning and a sunset. Because water, as Dr. Emoto showed, it has very instant effect.
Well, a waterfall, the negative ions,
Yeah,
the shower, is the shower our private waterfall?
Yeah. See, this negative ion is very important. Let's say when God cooks for you instead of me cooking for you, he ripens the fruit with negative ion. But here, I before God finishes, with his cooking, I'll go and pick it up so it doesn't have negative ion.
Yes.
Yeah. But so what happens, if we let God cooks for you, you get ripe something and it has all the systemic enzyme, MSM, negative ion, and many other missing link in our diet. But we think we cook better, and we interfere with God's cooking, and we pick it up, and then we bring it and heat it up and destroy it.
Yeah. Well, that wee, those early pre-dawn hours also are high negative ion moments.
Oh yes, because that much phase change, anything that goes through phase change, it produces that. it produces that negative ion is actually excessive magnetism.
And that's the
Just
point of
like,
peristalsis, is it? When things are contracting and about to expand?
yeah, see, it has, let's say, it says, what's the word for it? Surplus magnetism in the morning. What is that
Surplus
surplus
magnetism.
magnetism? It pushes the water down. It gets you going. But if I'm under the substance influence, I can't even get up.
You need some stimulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's that pill? Well, that pill in that cup of coffee.
Yeah. That's why I need to come next to me and kick me in the porch to get me out of the bed.
And then to go to sleep and sleeping pill.
Yeah, yeah. Because either somebody has to kick me in the porch to wake me up, or at night somebody knocks me on the head to put me to sleep.
Well, we've spoken of harvesting vibration. So the oscillation is mechanical and it's seen as is frequency.
Yeah.
And pulse is a vibration.
Yes, pulse the unit of vibration. Like when you hold your wrist, there is 6 pulses here. Like Chinese, they don't look at one pulse. They look at all your 6 organs here. And so what happens here? It's pulse because I'm vibrating. But when something is oscillating, the unit to measure that is frequency. See, light is not a frequency unless it's a step. I mean, it's oscillatory. What comes from the sun is vibration. That's why vibration has rotation, and peristalsis. That's why physicists like such an Einstein, they missed the whole boat. I mean, the guy who wrote, a physicist in University of California, Santa Cruz, and many other physicists, they have written about that.
So we're going to regain better understandings of how to live in harmony with nature.
Yes, I mean, if you allow me to surrender, submit, and be a service with joy and peace. If not, if let's say television cultivate me the other way, my magnetic needle has an obstruction. It cannot point to our north.
And you are really substituting human systems for nature's beautiful functions. Doesn't make good sense.
Yeah. And functions again is defined by field and flow, system by input and output. So it's governed by efficiency, the other one by sufficiency. So you want something when you divide it multiplies, or you want when you divide it, you get it fragmented.
The sacred fractal flow.
Yes. Because fractilation is progression in life, in going higher and higher. That's why when you are fractilating person, every birthday becomes more vibrative. You have more vibration, more wisdom.
Oh, yes.
But if I'm oscillatory, as I get older, I go down and down and down, and until I run out of gas.
Well, we have been sufficiently energized with your conversation again this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
I thank you again, as always. It's an honor and a privilege. And we will continue discussing how we can harvest more vibration and understand the principles that make this field and flow of nature so pure and divine.
Yes, exactly. It's we have to remember that in order a provision to be divine, it needs to have the increment or ingredients of blessing, as you always say.
The blessing is the provision.
Blessing is what makes the provision divine.
Blessing makes the provision divine.
Yeah. I can have a lot of provision. I have hoarded everything from you and everybody else. But if I don't have the blessing in it, it doesn't make me happy.
Well,
That's
we're
why-
going for happiness, peace, and joy. And I will end again in blessing you, my brother,
Yes, thank you.
and thanking you for the honor and privilege of your sharing your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my service.
And we join you in that. And I want to say, I think it's very important that we remember surrender in submission to serving Creator and all creation, and peace and joy.
That's that magnetic needle.
Keep your alignment to magnetic north.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Bless you, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for here and now. But until we meet again, this has been Louis-Virie Blanche thanking you for listening to Conversations with Elders on Glastonbury Radio 432. Bless you.
Quantum physics in the kitchen sink. The energy that follows the thoughts you think. Quantum physics and the cosmic sea. Laws of nature too heavy for me. It's too cosmic, much too cosmic for me. Much too cosmic, much too